Hey folks, this is One for the Road, a John Caldwell podcast exploring Mississippi highway issues and infrastructure challenges. Here there's one person and one voice standing up for the road you travel, the road less traveled, the road in most need, and ultimately the road ahead. Each episode we will shed some light on the who, what, when, and why mysteries that leave many of us scratching our heads, searching for better answers. This is Commissioner John Caldwell. Thanks for listening to One for the Road. Welcome back. This is our third episode of One for the Road with John Caldwell. During this episode, I'll finish our look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of Mississippi highway funding. If you remember from last time, we identified the good as our ability to manage limited money well. We acknowledged the bad as our lack of adequate revenue for maintaining and improving our highways and bridges, especially as it relates to inflation. We barely mentioned the ugly, the process and politics of Jackson, Mississippi. That's the bottom line up front, the good, the bad, and the ugly of transportation, if you will. So let's take a deeper look into the ugly, Jackson, Mississippi politics. This won't be a political bashing time. After all, politics is just people, and people are just people. In North Arkansas, there's a bumpy old dirt and gravel road that local Democrats named Republican Highway. It was always good for a laugh, unless you lived on that road. To me, it's not so funny anymore. It's too close to my reality. Mississippi Republican politics should not leave us with bad roads and less hope for future funding. That can't be our legacy. Republicans took control of the Mississippi legislature in 2011. Soon, the party of Lincoln held supermajorities in both houses, while GOP put back-to-back two-term Republicans in the governor's mansion. And yet, infrastructure, a core function of government, essential to long-term economic development, moves further behind on the state's priority list. Democrat priorities, such as Medicare expansion, marijuana, health care, political correctness, politicians' pay, public education, and public retirement bailouts lead the way in Jackson. And now hundreds of millions of dollars of small local pet projects round out each legislative session. And some people call it the Christmas tree bill or the vote right bill or even the prize patrol legislation, picking the winners and losers based on politics rather than priorities. Does that sound like Republicans? At least we've managed our state overall finances like good Republicans, much better than the tax and spend party that had control before. We're not the same. Now's the time to show the rest of the country and the world, as well as our friends and neighbors here in Mississippi, what Republicans and leadership can do. It's time to better maintain, improve, and build our state's infrastructure to serve our citizens and to prepare for the next generation of opportunities. We need current state leadership focused on it now, not just the next group running for statewide office during election year. We need action and leadership without delay. The AHEAD 4-lane program back in 1987 wasn't perfect, but it was mostly funded. However, it never was finished, and it did little to ensure adequate maintenance of the larger failing highway system. It really didn't see beyond its implementation. Next, Vision 21, the plan from 2002, was nothing but a legislative wish list codified into state statute. It was not just underfunded, but unfunded. It provided zero new revenue to do anything. Vision 21 may have done more harm than good. Decades later, it's the best we have, and that's pitiful. We've already begun state fiscal year 2025, and there's no new infrastructure strategy today. Certainly, no funding mechanism to adequately maintain our highways. Status quo will not do. Sometimes I think the staggering numbers simply leave everyone speechless. Estimates, such as an additional $450 million annually from maintenance, gets casually reduced in our capital city discussions or dismissed totally without regard for our actual needs. To keep our capacity program alive, we need an additional $250 million annually as well. These huge numbers are based on actual costs of fixing actual highways and bridges. That construction estimate for building additional highway capacity doesn't even begin to build out the Vision 21 plan. It only touches the surface of adding lanes or building bypasses in select areas of need. Frankly, if inflation continues and we continue to fall behind, we'll need to up those numbers soon. So now what? Well, according to Will Rogers, there are three kinds of men. The ones that learn by reading, the few who learn by observation, and the rest of them have to pee on the electric fence for themselves. Let's not pee on the electric fence. Let's learn our lessons now. We have a choice and an opportunity today, but our window is closing to learn without some real pain. We really need to open our eyes and ears and take the necessary steps to help ourselves. We must maintain and build our infrastructure for a better Mississippi tomorrow. So the good, the bad, and the ugly remain as we go forward. There's plenty of good work going on with good people working for solutions at MDOT, in the legislature, and across our state leadership spectrum. The bad news of funding shortfalls leave much needed work left undone. It's basic math and common sense as to why we're losing ground. We simply don't have what it takes to do all that needs to be done. Finally, the political hurdles to overcome the bad are ugly. President Eisenhower overcame at the national level decades ago. It's time that we overcome the ugliness at the state level and move forward. It's pretty ugly that the only state infrastructure plan in my lifetime were done prior to Republicans taking the reins. The last and only partially funded highway program was ahead in 1987. The next legislative effort, the Vision 21 plan from 2002, is a disaster, unfunded from the start, and has basically expired. We are beginning our 2025 fiscal year now with no real legislative plan and no revenue to support a plan. That leaves us with little more than hope. Hope that we can prevent a pending crisis. Yet hope is not a course of action. Real action needs to overcome the politics that currently strangles our state government. Young and old, red and yellow, black and white, conservatives and liberals all agree that our highway infrastructure needs better maintenance. There seems to be a widespread understanding and willingness to provide more funding, but we seem more determined to fight and endure the ridiculous and unnecessary friction created by divisive and costly pet political priorities unrelated to highways. It's high time Mississippi puts infrastructure first, and we deal with the good and the bad and the ugly surrounding this core function of government. Thankfully, the good, our people and policies, are in place, and we do very well with limited money. The bad can be overcome if we start now finding recurring revenue. We don't expect or need it all at once, but we should and do expect more than we've been getting. Ultimately, we need to set aside the ugly political infighting and focus on the one thing on which we all agree: Mississippi roads. Thankfully, we have made some real strides in spite of our challenges. As I look across the Northern District, we have paved many of our worst roads, repaired or replaced many of our bad bridges. Hundreds of millions of dollars were focused on our greatest needs. Over $1 billion have been placed under contract this year alone. Now, we take those highways and bridges for granted. We drive them without a second thought. They are no longer the worst of the worst. Sadly, we have a new and growing list of worst roads and deficient bridges. They need our attention. On our next episode, we'll look at some of those specific roads and bridges that give us cause for concern. We'll also dig deeper as we search together for creative solutions. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for listening. New podcast episodes will be shedding more light on unique transportation challenges across Mississippi. If you've enjoyed this and are ready for more, please hit the like button below, make a comment, place a review, or share this podcast with a friend. And join our following on Commissioner John Caldwell Facebook page. Until next time, slow down, drive in the right lane, and watch out for that pothole.